The dark web, where the true horrors of the internet hide. To many, torture, red rooms, and prolific hacking may just be a myth. But to those claiming to have experienced it firsthand, it is certainly no fabrication. Please welcome me in joining Hitchhiker on our dark web tour. So get comfortable and let the darkness take control.
I didn't think that I would be next. I didn't think it would ever happen to me. I had thought they wouldn't be able to find me, or I was just far out of their reach. I was dead wrong, because that's exactly what he was looking for. Now as I write this, I'm being stalked down like a mouse is by a cat. I suppose I should tell you how I got to this point. I was home alone one night and decided to browse the deep web. For those of you who don't know, the deep web is a place you should never visit unless you have the stomach for it. It's the darker side of the web that contains just about every vile thing about humanity that you can imagine. However, unless you have these things called bitcoins, which range at about $400 US, you can't access the darker stuff. But if you have the right sites and have the patience, you might be able to get bitcoins for free. Anyway, I got curious on this one night and thought, Mom won't be home for a while. One peek can't hurt. I heard about the deep web by listening to some horror stories narrated on YouTube. The narrators say they're all true, but I have my doubts. In the stories, they all state for those who don't know how to access the deep web, you need to download a browser called Tor that allows you to be more anonymous than incognito on Google. So I downloaded Tor and got to work. It wasn't as bad as the story said it was. Worst thing that I came across was access to the black market while browsing. I came across a link called Getaway to Shadow Web that read, send 0.3 Bitcoin to this web address. You will receive access instructions and a link address in 1 to 2 days. After a great deal of time, I had accumulated enough Bitcoins and sent them to the address. The next day went by without an email until the day after when I finally received a confirmation email. That night I went on the shadow web and did some browsing. I stayed away from the gory sites and red rooms as much as possible and focused more on the forums, because I knew what to expect on there. I ran across this one forum that had these people chatting about many dark things. As I was scrolling, I noticed at the very bottom that an anonymous user left nothing more than a link. Being the curious child that I am, I clicked on it, thinking that it would lead me to an article or something on that topic. As much as I'd like to say it led me to another forum, I can only say that it led to me to what I feared it would be, a red room. Before I go any further, I will explain what a red room is. Most red rooms are known for being gory in some way, and most people don't know what to expect or never prepared. The only way you can exit out of a red room is by cutting the power source from your computer. If I had known this, I wouldn't be in this mess. I knew what to expect, which is why I wanted to so desperately get out. However, I didn't know how to get out since I'd never had experience with them. It was dark at first, which scared me, but then a masked man appeared on screen and started talking. It was when the fear sinked in. "Welcome, everyone," he exclaimed with delight. "I know you all aren't here to watch me talk all night, so I'll just get right into it. Tonight we have a young woman from the streets. She has no idea what an honor it is to be a part of this tonight, and how she will be remembered for the future. Although she won't profit from this, some of you will. But before we start betting, I need to go over some rules to ensure things won't get crazy." Rules? Betting? What? I couldn't even think straight at this point because I was so bewildered by this. After the masked man went over the rules, I finally understood what was about to begin. This was a betting contest to see who could put this woman through torture. The broadcast continued, and the betting began. There was a chat box at the bottom of the screen telling the masked man what to do to this woman. She was a very petite-looking woman, so I would imagine that anything they would abuse her with would hurt her more than it would hurt someone like me. As the abuse went on, her screams filled my ears. I was looking for a way to exit the red room because I couldn't bear to watch this and do nothing. As I was panicking, I yelled out loud to myself, "This is sick. Once you find a way to exit this nightmare, go straight to the cops." "What did you say?" The screaming stopped. I was looking at the man in the mask. I didn't think he was in the same room because this room is pitch black with the exception of the glow from my laptop screen. It was at this moment that I realized that my mic was on, and I couldn't turn it off. What, can't handle my show? I'm just trying to have fun. I mean, everyone else gets to have fun with their hunting and video game shit, but I can't. I have to get the fucking 5-0 called on me? A moment of silence went by. How would you like to be featured in my next show, Tess? He finally said. I trailed in shock. How in the world did he know my name? Come on. A nosy, beautiful brunette like yourself would be bet on instantly at high price. Oh wait, you look confused. It's okay. You don't need to worry, because I have everything under control now. Hold still while I take your picture. Take my... Oh god. Once I realized that my webcam was on, I immediately covered it, trying to exit the red room. Take your hand off the webcam, or else I'll come visit you sooner, bitch. That's right, I know where you live. You should really consider using better security on your laptop, because I was able to access it quicker than I accessed my own. I was horrified. So horrified that I wanted to puke. But I complied. He took the picture. There's a good girl, I heard coming from the screen. He was humming to pass the time. While he was doing something on his computer, the thought of removing the battery came to my mind. Immediately, I flipped my laptop over, took the battery out, threw my laptop, and cried. I had no idea what in the world I had just seen. I didn't eat, sleep, or feel much of anything for a few days after that. My experience with the deep web happened almost a week ago. I'm still on edge. I realized that I'm being stalked when I was walking home from the local market 2 nights ago to see a black SUV keeping a freakishly close distance to me. I let it slide that night. I know, stupid. But not last night. I took more detours than I knew existed on that route to avoid the SUV. When my mom asked, I told her that the line at the market was incredibly long. I had the same thing happen to me tonight. I have no doubt that this is connected to my encounter with the deep web. If I am to die tonight, I just wanted everyone to know that I didn't enjoy any bit of what I saw. I'm strongly against it. I also want everyone to know that I am truly, genuinely a nice girl. Hope no one ever has that experience what that woman did. With that, I'm signing off and going to bed. Since it's 2:47 a.m., I will update in the morning.
My best friend Jeremy always had a penchant for the occult. When we hung out, he would share all sorts of rituals and creepy stories about demons and cults. I was weirded out, but he was a nice guy. I must add that he was also a maths geek. He would always excel in school in anything that required calculus, and the passion for numbers and the occult is what sealed his fate. One night we were browsing random stuff on his computer, and after watching a few shock videos, we were bored. You know, the normal internet has nothing to offer. I think we should browse the dark web, Jeremy said. I'd heard that the dark web was not as cool as they say, I replied. Don't be a wuss. Come on, let's dig up some creepy shit. Prepare to be disappointed, I say. We installed Tor, as well as a crack VPN and some antivirus just in case. Yeah, we were cheapskates, and dove right into the deep web. At first, we found some strange forums and sites with flashing pictures and bouncy music. Told ya, nothing to see here, I said to Jeremy. We're just scratching the surface, he calmly replied. And he was right. After some searching, we found some really weird website. It had a flat red background with black font. I think it was Chiller, and a picture of Baphomet. From time to time, the demon would blink. Under the image, there was a string of numbers and letters. I was trying to hold my laughter, but I couldn't. This is so cliche, I sniggered. Come on, come join our cult, we have free cookies. I said that in a deep voice, trying not to laugh. Jeremy sighed though. You don't know what we're dealing with? I think this is a hidden sequence in the cascade of gibberish. At this point it was getting quite late, and I really had to go home. Besides, we hadn't found anything remotely interesting. I quickly said goodbye to my friend. In bed, I rewind in my mind what I saw. Yes, the page seemed really cheesy with its 90s, early 2000s aesthetic, but a part of me feared that there was something else pulling the strings. The next day at school, Jeremy approached me excitedly holding a bunch of papers. "You won't believe what I found on the page," he said. He said it with the thrill of a child opening a Christmas present. "What did you find?" I had to do a lot of calculations, but I think after decoding the gibberish, I found the devil's phone number. "Let me guess. Is it 666? I snarkily reply. "Nah, it's really long. It has like 30 digits. He handed me one of the papers. It had a series of operations that I didn't understand, and at the end underlined with great emphasis, a long number. Alongside it, Jeremy wrote, "The number of the beast." This is ridiculous. How can you guess this is a phone number and of the devil? The gibberish had words such as, "Call me and dial my number," Jeremy replied. "Don't tell me you're planning to call old Nick." "Nah, I'll text him instead." "Yeah, and you're also going to friend him on Facebook too?" Jeremy ignored my comment and just said, "Meet me after school." Before going to class, my head was spinning. I can't believe Jeremy spent so much time trying to solve that enigma. But the number couldn't be real, right? Classes went by sooner than I imagined, and I was at Jeremy's place when he had his phone in hand. "I just added him to my contacts list," he said. "I was waiting for you to start." He saved the number as Horny Horns, but when he opened the app to text, the contact name was blank. The profile picture was a pitch black backdrop with a faint smile. Jeremy apparently was unfazed by this and began texting. "Jeremy, hello?" Then came the reply, "Hello." Jeremy sent a message. "How is the weather down there?" When Jeremy sent the message, his phone suddenly got hot. He immediately dropped it. I tapped it with my finger and it was burning, worse than you can ever imagine, as if it had just been put in an oven. After a few minutes, the phone cooled down. A message came through. "What do you seek?" "Jeremy, is this some prank? Are you just hacking my phone or something?" Another message came through. "This is not a game." "Jeremy, yeah, at least show me some proof." A reply came through. "You want proof? You will get it." After a few tenseful seconds, the mystery contact sent a picture. Since Jeremy's phone had an option to don't download pictures automatically, it was all blurry, but I could make out a face of some sorts. I immediately felt a shiver down my spine. "What if it is?" Jeremy asked. "It has to be a mask," I nervously replied. "You know, since we don't know what will happen, I think we should take turns to look at the picture." "I agree, but who will go first?" After a heated discussion, we settled it down to a game of rock, paper, scissors, 2 out of 3. The loser gets the first look, and after several ties, I won. "Alright, here goes nothing," said Jeremy. He took the phone away from my view and proceeded to download the picture. I saw the sweat run down his forehead. "The damn thing won't download, the signal must be..." He was speaking when suddenly he started screaming. Not screams of terror, but of intense pain. He screamed on the top of his lungs until he spat blood and his eyes rolled up into his skull, leaving pure white. Then he collapsed, lifeless. His phone fell to the ground, the screen facing up. I managed to look away, but somehow I felt the phone beckoning me. I tried to fight back, but suddenly my body wasn't my own. Against my will, I stood from my seat and began walking. If I'd have kept doing this, I would have looked at the picture. I realized I had limited control over my actions. So as I walked towards the device, I managed to raise my foot and stomp it. I heard a loud hiss and felt something hot under my toe. The screen was heavily cracked, but I could still make out a face. The state of the screen didn't let me see any features clearly, but it had the color of burning coal, and it was long. Anything else was obscured by the cracks. With my body back in my control, I smashed the cell phone against the wall, and then flung it out of the house into the street. Several cars and a truck fortunately ran it over. Jeremy's death was determined to be a heart attack, but his internal organs were charred. His funeral was small. I only saw his family and a few friends. I decided to leave in his casket his favorite book, Moonchild. Several days later, I was doing homework when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I saw a tall, thin man in a business suit. He was skinny, his skin was pale and his eyes grey. He handed me a phone and left. I am afraid to even turn the damn thing on, but somehow I feel that Jeremy lives through it, so I can't get rid of it. I decided to bury it in a box deep into the ground. It seems to have solved things for now, but sometimes in my dreams I can feel a familiar voice clamoring to be free, to me to free him out of the cold dirt. I have ignored these calls, but they are getting louder and louder every day. I fear the day that I oblige the call, I will release whatever is inside.
Remember when deep web stories were the fad? Every week you'd find a new tale of someone going too far on the deep web, finding something terrible, ending up getting attacked for speaking out against it. This is a bit similar of a story. The difference is, I still love the deep web. Let me explain. I was a senior in high school at the time. I was definitely not a popular kid. My friends were the oddities of the school, and few people dared to defy the norm. It was them who told me about the dark parts of the internet, where you can be completely unwatched, anonymous, capable of doing whatever you want. Of course I was intrigued. Most of my friends just used it to buy drugs, but I thought a little bit bigger. I wanted to know what happened in the darkest parts of the deep web, whether or not my friends were telling the truth, when they talked about the horrible fetish sites and assassins you can hire to kill anyone you like. Of course I wasn't planning on using any of it. I've never been particularly interested in sex, so fetish sites don't interest me, and there's nobody I'd really like to kill. It was the mystery of it all, the fascination. Going to these sites would be like peering into the side of the world only few have ever seen, like a whole new experience. At the time, I was tired of the monotony of life, getting up at the same time every day, go to school, attend the same classes, talk to the same people, go home, play some games, do some homework, go to sleep, and then it'd repeat. I wonder if people got tired of that. Anyway, it took a while for me to actually dive into the deep web. As fascinated as I was, I'd been warned of what could happen to me. I read the stories I talked about too. Who isn't afraid of being threatened by hackers or stalked by some creepy piss-off online? That kind of shit kept me from actually going on the deep web, until the day I manned up and decided it was time to break the monotony, and it was time to delve into the underbelly of the internet, time to see the world I had only dreamed of. For the first week, it was fucking boring. It was just drug sites and stuff where people expose government secrets or whatever. Nothing as dark as I expected. I don't even do drugs, so that was useless to me. I wasn't into politics. There really wasn't much I was into back then, so I was disappointed. The only reason I kept exploring was my sheer desire to experience the world I thought existed on the dark web. The world was darker than any drug site. The world had murder, torture, fucked up porn for fucked up people, and all sorts of nasty shit. I eventually got my wish. Just when my apathy towards the deep web got to its highest point, I found what I was looking for. The site didn't have a name. I thought it was a broken link for a bit, since it only led to a black screen. Right before I could click out, however, a chat box opened on the screen. Someone using the name Administrator typed in the chat saying, "Congrats, you found the worst place on the fucking net." I stared at the screen, more bemused than afraid. It took me a moment to type back, "Cool." That's all I said. What else could I say there? "I'm here to see your finest torture porn." A moment after, the administrator replied, "Ha ha, you want in?" I hesitated. All those horror stories started flooding back into my head, but it was too late to chicken out now. This was what I came for. Even if I clicked out on the first sign of danger, I had to see what was there. I had to break the fucking monotony. I had to know. I hastily typed back, not allowing myself to stop. "Yeah." The chat box closed, and I was led directly to what looked like a video, with another chat box next to it. There were around 5 other people there, each eagerly waiting for something. The video was black and white, and showed a small room. The only thing inside was a wooden chair, until around 5 minutes of waiting, the door to the room opened. A man was shoved inside, blindfolded, naked, save for a pair of black briefs. He was followed by a woman that was dressed in all black. Her face was covered by a black mask. In an instant, the chat room went wild. I almost closed the window to spare myself, knowing immediately where this was going. But again, I told myself this is what I wanted. Maybe not the torture, but the window into the worst part of the world. The woman pulled a knife from her pocket, cut off the man's blindfold. She shoved him into the chair. He didn't struggle for a moment. Once his eyes were visible, I could see why. It looked like he'd been drugged. Resisting was impossible. I frowned, glancing to the side. This was fucked up. I knew this was fucked up. My conscience told me call the cops, or at least click out, but I forced myself to watch. She turned to the camera, pointing the knife at the man's throat. One of the people in the chat typed, "One of his fingers, cut off one of his fingers." I clenched my hands into a fist, taking a sharp breath. This was really fucking happening. I was gonna just watch this guy get mutilated, as a small crowd of people watched in glee. I felt like throwing up, a feeling that only worsened when the woman nodded and turned to the man, grabbed his hand, and carefully slicing off one of his fingers. Blood spurted from the wound, and the man moaned in pain, but couldn't fight back. Breathing heavily, I hovered over the X, planning to get the fuck out of there, but I didn't. The woman looked unimpressed, as if she thought the chat could do so much better. Another person called for a slice of the man's arm. She complied. He was bleeding heavily now, clearly in deep pain, but these people were fucking sick. They were cheering her on from chat, suggesting new and painful tortures for her to inflict. Eventually, I stopped breathing heavily. I stopped feeling sick. It was starting to grow on me. By the end, the man was on the ground, covered in blood, breathing heavily. I watched this around half a minute. The people in the chat were starting to die down. They inflicted enough pain. They had their fun. It seemed like things were wrapping up. Funny, I thought. How was it over when I was just getting into it? I smirked. This was exciting. This was better than any game I could play. Better than any fucking class I could attend. Better than sitting with a group of fucking nobodies pretending like I cared for a goddamn second about any of them. This was the world I wanted to see. This was the darkness. This was the underbelly. This was reality. Fucking end him. Slit the throat. I typed in the chat for the first time. She nodded for one last time, bringing the man to his feet before slowly dragging the braid across his throat, sending more blood spurting out. Once it was done, she dropped him. He fell to the ground limp. He was dead. The people in the chat started to compliment the torturer, talking about how it had been another good time, starting to set a date for the next showing. On screen, the woman left the room, leaving the corpse behind. Of course, I hastily wrote down the date for the next showing. This was going to be a part of my life now. I was going to be a part of something bigger. I was going to command these people's deaths. What a rush. So yeah, I love the deep web. I'm in college now. I'm now more immersed in the deep web than ever. I've seen some shit people would freak out knowing exists. I fucked around every sick porn site known to man. I finally broke the monotony of life. Inspirational, right? How one high schooler defies the boredom inherent in his life by discovering his true passion. I love the deep web.
For the past 2 months, things have been constantly changing. I've checked into almost 40 hotels every other night or so, and I always end up having to leave before I can get comfortable. Reason being, if I stay, I die. Let me explain why. I'll start off by saying I'm 25, living a very dull life. I get up, go to work, come home and repeat. It's the same cycle every day, and of course, I had to do things that just made up for it. At work, I was having a discussion with my pal. For his sake, I'll refer to him as Rob. He brought up the dark web, something I've heard of before many times, nothing new, but he also referenced a shadow web, which seemed very interesting. He said there were gateways beneath hidden onion links, and accessing the shadow web took about 0.5 Bitcoin. Of course, my interest levels peaked along with the adrenaline. I was given warnings, but I ignored them, a mistake that would soon haunt me for months to come. On my way home from work, I purchased some gift cards, and upon my return home, I exchanged the online currency for Bitcoin. Let me tell you, finding a gateway was extremely difficult, and I couldn't find a proper gateway until my 4th night of searching. I made a throwaway email and bought my pass. I emailed the pass giver for instructions on how to properly access the shadow web. Please note, it was to see if it were real. I never had any intention of purchasing any content and or participating in those god-forsaken live streams. I followed the instructions and soon after found myself on the website. I couldn't help but laugh at the fact that they had a huge welcome page. It was corny, definitely unsettling though. There were several categories, from people having intercourse with corpses to extreme levels of CP. It was disturbing, and I had no intent of staying for long. Something caught my eye though. Little windows with chat boxes. I clicked on one on impulse and was brought to a chat room. There were several people typing, and I was prompted to make a username. Thinking I could be funny, I made my username Chris P. Bacon. The chat log read, "Crispy Bacon has joined the chat." Soon, I was greeted by many people, some with normal usernames, and other with more disturbing names, such as Skullscrewer87, and things beyond the level of disturbing. Again, I was overly curious, and the phrase "curiosity killed the cat" was never more apparent to any situation than mine right now. So another message popped up from the user admin. The admin let us know that the show was starting soon, and I already knew what kind of show this would be. It had to be a live stream of murder. The show began quickly. It was at a computer desk. A young woman sits. She was probably in her mid-20s. Someone I would approach at a bar and buy a drink for, no doubt. Down below the chat box, most people were making sick comments about how they would rape and hurt her. It was horrible. Behind her, a door creaks open, and in slips 2 men, both wearing bags over their heads, eye holes and mouth holes cut out. Both men are very quiet. One turns on the girl's bedroom light, causing her to turn around and freak out. She's ambushed, and before she can react, they're tying her hands up and stripping her clothes. Trying to be the hero, I type into the chat box, "What kind of messed up shit is this? I'm contacting the authorities ASAP." This idea wasn't so bright. and below a private message popped up, and someone with the username redneck_3 was listing my address, name, telephone number, and just about everything associated to me. I freaked out, and ever since then, I've been tracked. It's getting to be too long. I've got to log out for now, and move location before they can find out where I've gone.
Let me tell you my experience that the deep web is a disgusting human cesspool. You don't know what lies in the darkest recesses of a human psyche until you go there. I learned that the hard way. I got suckered in by crazy stories and hype my friends gave it. I wanted to see it for myself, so last week I downloaded Tor and started browsing. I didn't feel the need for any extra protection, being completely new to the entire concept. In retrospect, I wish I had. I spent hours clicking link after link after link. I was starting to get bored and a little freaked out. I had found a whole host of your typical crackheads searching for drugs, sites for hitman for hire, a shit ton of other military-grade weaponry. At one point I found myself scrolling through post after post of vivid descriptions of animal abuse, and how the sick fuckers who committed those atrocities get off to them every night. I wish I had closed my computer right then and there, but something kept my curiosity alit. Honestly, I think some part of me wanted to see how fucked up the human mind truly could be. After a few more links to child porn, a couple of drug markets, I had had enough. This is it, I sighed to myself. One more link, I swear I'm getting out of this hellhole. I clicked the link, going blindly into what, unbeknownst to me, would alter my already cynical view of humanity. I mean, honestly, when you hear a guy go on and on about lighting his dog on fire and watching it wither, you tend not to think the best of people, but this was a whole new level of twisted. First thing that caught my eye was curly pink font that served as a title of the opening page. It read, "Peace and Love." I remember it all too clearly, as it seemed out of place in the slum of the human refuse formerly known as the deep web. I scrolled down to find an image album, a sample chat box. No one was online at the moment, so I went ahead and clicked the first set of pictures. I was not ready for what I was about to see. The very first pic was of a young pregnant woman, bawling her eyes out. She looked scrawny and thin, with cuts and bruises. Marrying her pale skin, she looked scarred and malnourished, like she was begging for her life. I clicked the next photograph and nearly vomited. The young woman from before sat in a chair facing the camera, her dead, dull eyes boring into me. She was covered in blood, and her abdomen had been torn open. In her cold, unfeeling arm, she held the child, still attached at the umbilical cord, half-formed, lifeless body with deep crimson with blood, and one could tell it had been forcibly ripped from the wound. On the wall just behind them, written in their blood, were the words, "I gave them peace," in harsh, hasty letters. I don't know what possessed me to scroll through the photo. It was as if I couldn't control my own fallacies. The image only got more and more gruesome as I looked further. The following images seemed to be a time-lapse of the decomposition of the body. I watched them rot, sitting there together. I watched the face of the mother, which could have been considered beautiful, wither and collapse into itself as the fetal mound of flesh. By the end of the series of images, there was nothing but skeleton. I would have noped the fuck out of there had it not been for a message that popped up on my screen. It was from the website chat. Read exactly as follows. "Hello there. Do you like what you see? Do you want more? Do you want to attain true peace?" I didn't know how to respond. I was rooted in my chair with fear. Then the sicko spoke again. "You don't have to be scared, Zachary. I love you. I want to help you. Let me help you." I managed to type a simple question. "How in the hell do you know my name?" Almost immediately I got a response. "I know everything about you. You know, you really shouldn't leave your curtains open like that. You might get a draft. You see, I just want to help you. Please let me save you." My eyes flashed to uncover the window behind me to the light of the webcam. My heart skipped a beat when I realized it was on. The sick fucker was watching me. I made a move to pull the plug on the sick son of a bitch when another message popped up. Don't try to shut me out. I'll bring you peace. I swear, Zachary Tanner. It's the only real bliss in this world. That was the last message I got before I finally shut it off. Needless to say, I stayed off the internet for a long while after that. Just today, I got back on, praying to God it would have all blown over. Oh, how wrong I was. I logged into my email only to find it spammed with emails from an account named I'll Show You Peace. Each one had the same message. I want to save you. I want to love you. I want to bring peace. In all caps. But that wasn't even the worst of it. Each and every message had a candid photo of me taken within the last week. I've tried to involve the police, but they haven't been much help. What do I do?
Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I would like to extend a huge thank you to my good friend Hitchhiker for joining me on this video. Please be sure to check him out using the link on screen or in the description. I'm pretty sure you'll love his creepy content. I'm dropping a little teaser for a big video I have coming up in the next few days. It'll be right at the end. Can you guess what it will be? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, please remember to smash that like button and subscribe, as you won't want to miss what I have in store for you next. No, seriously, you really won't. And remember that if you have had a creepy or paranormal experience that you wish to share, feel free to send it to my email, which you can find in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter for some secret stuff you won't find anywhere else. But anyway, for now guys, I'm going to sign off. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.